Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing, Dean?
I am doing good this morning.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Nate.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Happy Trajectory Tuesday. How we doing out there?
Hey, Sean. Good morning.
Sean. Doing great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Outstanding.
Awesome. Hey, so a couple quick things to start today. We talked, had the conversation yesterday about numbers, but on Trajectory Tuesday, I want to really anchor into a concept that, in our unblinded sales mastery, we talk about the notion of seeing what you don't see, about exponentially growing your sales. And this concept of exponential is quite counterintuitive to how we think about things. So it is my hallucination, my reality, that a lot of times we tend to quit that which we are doing because we don't think we're making significant progress. And that progress actually operates, acceleration, breakthrough, operates in typically a very non-linear fashion. And if you've ever, and you don't have, I'll cite books at times for different interesting studies, and you could certainly read them for the entertainment value, but we can, synopsize the content very quickly here. So if you've ever read The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, we've been talking about his work in talking to strangers, and I truly am a student of his books because they are studies that are cited. There are numbers, there are facts that are recited that are not his facts and studies. So they're incredibly interesting. So in the book The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the non-linear nature of how things spread, from sexually transmitted diseases to the change in how frequently people wear hush puppies, to how a cigarette company like Winston virally spread. And wait, just somebody's unmuted. There's a female voice that is unmuted. If you could just make sure you're muted. And so why this is relevant to us is that at times we could feel like we're making a little progress, and then all of a sudden we stop. Whatever we're doing, like I'm not going to sell this anymore. I'm going to do something else. This part of the business is not working. I can't find investors. I can't find people to be partners, that sort of thing. Now, what we want to do, though, is create indicators below that are showing that we're making progress, so we get our dopamine hits, so we're clear that we're on track. But at the end of the day, if you think about the non-linear nature of things, that is a cornerstone component of what we say. Like, I don't tend to think of increasing things by 10%. I like to think of increasing things by hundreds of percentiles. And that's why I always get excited when I tell the story of Rob Gill going from 8 to 25 to 150 sales meetings, because it's a 22x increase. And he didn't change any of his behaviors that substantially. In fact, it's one of my favorite stories to share of all time, because it's such a beautiful example of those things happening, including this reality, that Rob is not a perfect executor by any stretch of the imagination of the results formula. He's doing it at a far better job than most, but it is far from perfect, and it's just like non-linear trajectory change. Now, for Rob to have an additional non-linear trajectory change from where he is, there's more that has to happen. But the critical piece to share today is sometimes it's much smaller than you think. And that's just the backbone of this entire program. It's once you know the results formula, you understand it, and you start rising your level of mastery, it isn't about creating 10% changes. It's about creating exponential changes. And the book, The Tipping Point, does such a beautiful job outlining it, including crime epidemics. It discusses crime epidemics in the country and in major cities that went from like 200,000 crimes in New York City during the mid-1960s to 600,000 within 2 years, maintained the same for 30 years, and then plummeted off the other side back down to 200,000 in a 2-year period after 30 years. Like, how does that happen? And the answer is, it is small changes that occur. If you ever read the book Good to Great, don't have to, but the book Good to Great evaluates 15 companies that maybe it's a little between 11 and 15 that were operating at the same level for 15 consecutive years. 15 years where they were at or below the stock market average, at or below the stock market average. And then for a 15-year period, they went at triple or higher after this 15-year flatness, 15-year period of at least 3% or higher growth. I'm sorry, 3 times the growth of the stock market over a 15-year period. And it's the same idea. They each hit this interesting trajectory tipping point. And just a fun way of having this sort of in your nervous system is, and somebody jump in with me. Who would like to jump in real quick? Anybody out there? Just somebody unmute yourself and just say your name.
I'll do it. Nate
Who's
Biddle.
that?
Nate Biddle.
Hey, Nate.
Tom.
Hey, Nate. Yep. What's up, Nate? How are you?
I'm well. And yourself?
I'm doing awesome, Nate. Thank you. So, Nate, if let's say you had a piece of paper, and it was large enough to start folding it. Have you ever heard of this exercise, Nate?
I think I know where you're going with it.
Okay, probably. But do you know like the actual answer?
I do not know.
Okay. So if you started folding a piece of paper, fold it once, twice, 5 times, and you ended up folding it 50 times, okay, and assuming that the piece of paper was large enough, how tall would that piece of paper be if you folded it over 50 times in half?
I couldn't even give you an answer.
What's your best gut answer?
If any size paper, I'm looking at an 8 by 11.
No, you're looking at a big enough piece of paper that you could fold it over 50 times.
Okay,
so it would have the room to fold it over 50 times.
I'd say probably 5 feet tall.
Yeah, it would reach the sun. So if you folded a piece of paper over 50 times, it would reach the sun, right? If it was large enough to fold it over that many times, right? Reach the sun. And if you fold it over a 51st time, it would reach the sun and back. So that element of thinking about, Nate, the folks that you can sell to, do transactions with, have as investors, create business relationships with, follows a similar exponential trajectory, right? And along the way, here's the key. Along the way, and that's why the results formula is in existence, along the way, different pieces fall out. For example, if you didn't have a big enough piece of paper, you're not going to reach the sun. But if it's any size piece of paper that has enough to still fold it over 50 times, right, it's going to reach the sun. And your business is going to similarly grow at a massive trajectory until you run out of things that are making that effectively happen. The beginning of this is these are the beginning ingredients, is to make sure that you have your influence mastery, because without one's influence mastery, we are going to run out of any ability to make anything happen. Because the ability for us to have people see their future in us is that indispensable tipping point ingredient. That's one of the indispensable ingredients. And most things aren't one thing. They're a couple of things. They're not a million things. They're a couple of things. We also need to have our process mastery in place. So if you have the greatest influence mastery in the world, but you're not counting, today we said we were going to talk about counting, the ecosystem mergers that you're having, then things are not going to accelerate. So for example, let's say that you are incredibly persuasive and you're using your incredibly persuasive skill sets talking to random strangers on the street. Well, that you might get fortunate and that might work, but that would not be nearly as optimal as going into places if you're looking for investment partners where people would have resources and money to partner. It would not be nearly as effective as going to places, let's say, that you can find transactions and deals, wherever the space of that might be for you. If you're selling, who's your optimal client base and where do they congregate? This is why, for example, on Thursday night of this week, I'm having a dinner with the president of the New Jersey Bar Association, having the president of the New Jersey Accounting Society, having somebody who has 10,000 plus businesses that they do business with from their entity, having somebody who is the head of sales for an 80 bank branch, and others, because each of those people I can do amazing things to create transformation in their life, and they are amazing tipping point possibilities for me. Now listen, right, here's the hopefully key piece. If you ever saw the movie Jurassic Park, there's a moment in the movie when the Ian Malcolm, who is the mathematician, the chaos theoretician, who was brought in by John Hammond, the guy that created Jurassic Park, to evaluate the island. He's like one of a number. Jeff Goldblum plays this character. And at some point, Jeff Goldblum says to Hammond, the creator of Jurassic Park, he says, before you knew what you had put it on T-shirts and lunchboxes, okay? And what I love, and he wasn't saying in a favorable way, but what I love about that favorable impression is this, the potential favorable impression of that, is so often each of you, us, we, gain new assets. We gain new assets. And we fail to utilize these new assets in our unique identity. So each of you, as you're learning what we're learning on these calls, has a new asset to talk to people about. People love to learn more about how to accelerate their sales, their influence. So you have a new asset. Perhaps, and that's something to communicate about, that would have people, when you convey your unique identity, interested and pulled more towards you. Or you may create, and you should be creating as fast as humanly possible, places and people that could be credibility sources that believe in what you believe in. They believe in you. They believe in where you're headed with what you're doing. And what you'll find is it's much more challenging. If you were to call, for example, a major company, let's say to call Google, and you were start to say to Google, like, hey, I want to partner with you in real estate deals, or hey, I want to partner with you, Google, on promoting my technology in some unique way. Like, I want you to invest in it. It's a big reach. If you were to tell Google, however, that YouTube just invested with you, you'd be having a different conversation because you have social proof. So bringing that down to a much more basic place, when I have the president of the Bar Association coming to a dinner, can you see how much easier it makes me to say to the president of the Accounting Society, hey, why don't you come? The president of the Bar Association is coming. It becomes infinitely easier. So a mechanism for us thinking about our geometric acceleration is how we can find social proof points for our unique identity, other people doing what we're hoping that somebody else will do, that we could tell them, well, this person is doing it, and it becomes much more normalized and helps us with our default no. Okay? So before I turn it over to Wins to share questions that people have, the numerical count that I want to talk about for today is, where are your ecosystem mergers? Like, where are your numbers? So we're on these calls now, and we're having conversation. And this week, we're going to have a discussion in depth about ecosystem mergers on our training, in addition to an influence mastery piece. So we'll treat this in much more depth. But the question I have for you is, where are your ecosystem mergers? What are your optimal potential ecosystem mergers? Like, who are they? Where are they? And what are your communications towards them at this juncture, right? So just stopping there. Like, are you dedicating at least 2 hours a week towards reaching out to some of your optimal ecosystem mergers and some of your most accessible ecosystem mergers? Because one of the things that I often find is people get excited. We have ideas, and then our action doesn't follow through. So we'll say, yeah, I get this. This is really like awesome and exciting. It's a new way of thinking. I have this insight. And now we have to move ourselves into action. And in that action, we need to design which we'll talk about on the hour-and-a-half call this week, the training. We have to define and design that action into a specific ask that makes sense for them. So at the Bar Association, for example, my specific ask is about me delivering free content and value to people at the Bar Association. And that's led to them saying to me, come to Puerto Rico and speak at our state bar convention in November. And that's led to me not stopping there and saying, okay, what is it going to look like for us to be promoting our programs to all of the members of the Bar Association in a level of partnership with the bar? I'm having this conversation with many, many groups of people simultaneously in that space. And of course, their reflexive reaction is fear. Whoa, we've never done that before. I'm like, okay, got it. So, but why does that matter? Right? So why does that matter? And we're going to talk about, objection handling throughout, our daily huddles and obviously throughout our weekly trainings. So we're not going to go deeper into that. But people have reflexive default no out of fear. I've never done that before. Well, it's not really relevant, right? Like, and have them explain it, and they can't. So that's at least the beginnings of how to handle objection. So the takeaways from today's call are, where are your number of ecosystem mergers? Considering the impact of exponential, which of course requires us to count, and remembering that often our acceleration comes in large, giant jumps, and it's less linear. But those giant jumps in our sales and our agreements and our things, the key indicators of that first are the building of our ecosystem mergers, our frictionlessness. How many folks are communicating about us, want to have meetings with us, and put us in front of other people that would want to have meetings with us? So with that, any wins anybody wants to share, any questions people have, turn it over to you on this Trajectory Tuesday. Who's got anything?
Yeah, I got some.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so who was that first?
Tyler.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Sean. So actually last night I was talking to my friend and my roommate. We were sitting at a table having a couple drinks. And,
Cool.
we were kind of just talking, sharing our, stories about our lives, and I can really tell the difference in my listening now. I was noticing how my friend was responding to my roommate when he was telling stuff, and it was actually, I could tell it was a lower level of listening. It was more lit. I could tell that he's thinking about what he's going to say next, and the questions are kind of surface level questions. And in my head, I'm just observing, and I'm trying to use the process in my head and just thinking, wow, like I can really tell a difference in my level of listening, and it's a lot deeper now. I'm thinking of deeper questions and trying to go deeper into this conversation and really understand this person better. So yeah,
Dude,
it's pretty awesome. I love it.
that is awesome, and you're unlocking your superpower. And so huge breakthrough. And so two things I would share. One is, three. Amazing. Congratulations. Love that you're thinking that way outside of these calls, because the vast majority of human beings with content and information don't ever use them. So congratulations on already putting yourself into a unique and rare category of human, number one. Number two, always be looking to sharpen your acknowledgments and validations. So as your friend is sharing and your other friend is doing these more surface questioning and you're deepening your questioning, always remember your acknowledgments and validations. Huge access point that creates, first of all, gives people a beautiful gift, creates gravitational pull for you as you're in your heart. And third, now be thinking and say, okay, this is amazing. Where can I begin to utilize this in a system to create more of what I want in the world? So amazing. Congratulations, Tyler.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah. Who's that?
Rob Gill.
Rob Gill. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? So listen, it's a two-pronged victory with a setback that led to a victory. So today, Klaus and John Spring, I believe, were at the Hudson County Correctional Facility at 6 a.m. And at 6 a.m., there was a breakdown in communication. They did not get a chance to speak to the first wave of shift people that they wanted to talk to. So when Klaus texted me that information, let's say at 7 a.m., I immediately, so here's the victory. The victory is I did a joint text between Klaus, Bill O'Day, and Ron Edwards. And I had to be very direct with Ron and explain what had happened. And that was basically they didn't give Klaus the platform he needed. And for all the folks on the phone, this could be 100 meetings that could result from this over like a 3 or 4 day period. So Ron, who, Sean, you remember last time, quote unquote, fumbled the ball, he acknowledged that this time. And then on that joint text, there was a much different kind of communication where, at least for the 1 o'clock shift and the 6 o'clock shift. So guys, if anyone's counting, Klaus and John are working over 14 hours today. From the 1 o'clock shift to the 6 or 7 o'clock shift, I'm pretty confident that there's going to.
Hey, Rob, we lost you, bud. You there?
Oh.
So I'm hearing between the 1 o'clock shift and the 4 o'clock shift, we lost you a little bit. What's going to happen?
I think that they're going to have a different platform and opportunity to bring to the good folks at the correctional facilities some of their products.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what Rob is referring to is the guard population there.
And the staff.
And that is an amazing, it's public speaking engagements, it's massive ecosystem merger and acceleration. So congratulations, Rob. That is a perfect example, not perfect, but it's an excellent example of an ecosystem merger. And those things can be happening. So here's always
Sean,
congratulations.
can I add my teaching moment that you gave me though?
Yeah, go, brother.
It's important. I think the influence, we're 2,000% there. The challenge was the process, because Ron, the guy that let us in, once again kind of put us in a position where there wasn't a direct communication, which landed on us, not Ron. So I immediately was on a text with Ron and Bill O'Day, who's the gentleman that put this together. And I think we in the middle of the game, let's say, made an adjustment from a process standpoint to put us in a better position for the next two events today versus the first event. That's where we didn't pack our bags and go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, I am proud of you. That is outstanding. And Rob is a warrior, taking massive action, jumping on airplanes, flying all over the place, meeting with people who are talking about the most important business breakthroughs in the world, all the way to people who are talking about potential like time travel and some weird stuff. So, sometimes you meet some interesting folk and sometimes you meet some optimal scenarios. But this is a man taking massive, massive action. So acknowledging and congratulating you on that, Rob, as well as Klaus and John for hanging in and being high communication. In addition, I would say that what is it going to look like when, as we're continuing to elevate in all these different ways, and Rob, your team is having 50 meetings like that with wild executives, teams in major corporations, and helping them do all of these things.
Yeah,
right?
and while they're at the facility tonight, me, you, and Kelly have 12 professionals coming in from different industries.
Yeah,
That's all happening today.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's going to be another amazing night, and then incredible meeting tomorrow, incredible meeting on Thursday. So just for all you folks out there that are newer to this, and first of all, we got a long way to go, because the space that I'm committed to being in is the only meetings I'm showing up to talk about those kind of things are where I'm getting paid to market, right? And so that's an exciting, next level breakthrough, which we'll continue to talk about as an undercurrent of when we all get paid to market, which is the beautiful space of the great influencers like a Tony Robbins or Grant Cardone. That's a gift, and that's an amazing place to reach. I'm not saying whether or not I, enjoy Grant Cardone's technology. I think it's wildly deficient, but I will say he's done a great job of mass marketing, which you have to acknowledge and validate. And so therefore he gets paid to market. Oprah gets paid to market. So many people, at the highest level of influence are getting paid to market, which we'll talk more about. Rob Gill, that's an extraordinary, breakthrough. Each of you every day, Trajectory Tuesday. So the anchoring is counting new ecosystems, counting breakthroughs and acceleration. That's our space. And does anybody have any final question for today? No? Hey, let's go get it. Have an amazing Trajectory Tuesday. Count your ecosystems. Continue to implement your influence mastery. Be at the highest level of self-mastery. Let's go get it. Have a great day. Thanks.
You as well.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks.
This is how we do it. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.